Okay, here's a quick discussion on patterns, stained glass patterns. So the first thing that you do is select your pattern, and then of course after you download your pattern online nowadays, because that's kind of how you get them, you got to make it the size that you want. And what I downloaded online was an 8.5 by 11, one that was this size. And although that's really cool, it's very tiny to cut out and small and hard pieces. And I wanted a more grand piece. So I went ahead and I blew it up on my copy machine and taped it together and made this piece here. Then the next thing I have to do is make a second piece. So the first piece is what we call your cartoon. And that's what you actually tape down to the board and keep covered with like a plastic or something so that your stained glass pieces can all line up. You can get them set. The second one that you cut is, or cut and shape and put together, is the one that you cut out with your scissors so that you can create pieces, stained glass pieces for the stained glass. So then the next thing that you have to do is you have to number it. And I always start from the upper left and go to upper right and work my way down. So this says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on all the way down the page. The next thing I do is I make sure that these numbers on the cartoon match exactly these numbers on the ones that I'm going to cut out. Next up is I got to decide what colors are all these. So on the cartoon, before I tape it down, I start identifying what's what. And right here, the first thing I want to do is find out if there is anything particularly important about this piece. In this case, there is a horizon line. So I decide where that horizon line is and I label it so I can note that's the horizon line. That tells me that I want sky above and field below. And then on the flowers have petals, and then they have stems, and then they have leaves. So I label all those to decide what it is, whether it's a field or sky, petals, stems, or leaf. And then what color I want it to be. Of course, I usually want the sky to be blue, but you could do something kind of different. You could do any number of things. Maybe make it a sunset, sunrise picture or what. But I do know I want a cloudy area up here. So I've got cloudy and then blue down to the horizon line. Then I'm in the field where I have leaves. This is a leaf. And these are the stems, and then these are the petals of the flowers. So the next thing on the cartoon that I want to indicate to myself is which way do I want the pattern of the stained glass to flow if it has a flow to the pattern. Sometimes you have clear glass, which doesn't have any flow or pattern, but other times you do have flow or pattern to your glass. So you want to know what direction you want the flow to go into. And for the leaves, they need to go from top to bottom. They need to go more vertical. And the stems need to go vertical. The sky needs to be more horizontal. And the field will be horizontal, right? So what I mean by that is, for instance, this is a piece of stained glass. And you can see it's kind of got a vertical pattern here. So if I cut this leaf out of this pattern, I'm going to take this cut piece and put it on the stained glass so that its direction of the leaf flows with the stained glass. And then so that cut piece would go on top of here. And then I glue it to the piece of glass after it's cut out. And then start cutting my glass. But before you cut your glass, one last thing, let's talk about foil scissors. Foil scissors are special scissors, and they have one blade on top and two blades on the bottom. And that allows them, when you're cutting the scissors with these scissors on the pattern, that it will cut the line out of the pattern so that you'll have space in between each glass, which is what you need for the solder to go, the lead solder to go. So that's the discussion on patterns. Remember, you need a cartoon pattern and a cutout pattern. And you got to match the numbers, decide the colors, decide what it is, and decide which way the glass is going to flow.